Hello, infinite beings. We're back.
Hello.
Good to see you all again. Welcome to all our replay people who are catching the replay. Welcome. All right, so today Mandy's going to tell us a story because she wrote me a message late last night and said that she'd had a major epiphany. So about some stuff she was listening to, and I thought it would be worthy of discussing because it's we've had different experiences of the same thing by the sounds of it. So let's have a chat about it. So what happened, man?
Well, I think after what we spoke about yesterday, and obviously lots is evolving for us right now because this is a new business and new idea, new project, whatever you want to call it. Lots of inspiration flowing, and so lots of ideas are coming in, and sometimes they're kind of butting up against each other, kind of challenging what you think is actually possible and pushing yourself a bit beyond the old way of doing things. So I've definitely found myself falling back into, but this is how I do this, and my background is in design. So I've been looking at our branding, but finding them really butting heads with, but I have to do this first, and I have to establish what the audience is, and I have to establish the target market and all the kind of, the stuff you hear about with marketing, and something just kind of wasn't sitting. I just kind of feel like I'm butting my head up against something, right? And it's not flowing like it normally kind of would. And then I was listening to an audio from a friend of ours, 𝐼, who we'll probably talk about a lot going forward because he's been quite impactful in our journeys, and also we've done a lot of same study as him as well. So, but there's an audio around ego and how does ego show up in your life? What does ego actually look like how subtle and tricky it starts to become, and when are you doing something for ego versus doing it because it's a feeling that's inside of you, or when does that feeling turn then into ego, like in noticing that shift? And so he's talking a lot about this idea of doing something just for the pure love of doing something, which is great. A lot of people start a business, say, for example, go, I really want to do this because I'm really passionate about, I don't know, helping kids, or I'm really passionate about helping animals, or I really want to help people get their businesses off the ground. And so that's all really fine and good. But then, traditional marketing and everything out there kind of tells us, okay, well, now you got to focus on the customer and the client and work out what they want. And whereas he kind of turned it on its head. He wasn't specifically talking about business, but somebody asked him a question kind of based around that a little bit, saying, well, people are really inspired by my story. Like when I share my story with people, that really inspires them, and that kind of, I feel really good because it inspires me to keep going with it. And he said, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having, inspiring people, but notice when the ego gets a hold of that, and you build yourself up because you feel like you're inspiring somebody and you're impacting somebody. And he was sort of sharing his experience on the speaking arena where he used to always share his story. And he said, people would come up to him and go, wow, that was amazing. But he said, then I noticed I'd go away, go, well, I've done good. Like I've broken through this barrier. And it was kind of, that's when the ego takes a hold. So yes, he was talking from a true feeling in the moment, but then the ego takes over it. So he said, I don't talk about my story now. He said, I just don't. He said, I'll share stories in the moment if they feel like they need to come through because I'm sharing a principle or a teaching, but I don't share my story now. And he said, because I noticed that it's not my job, it's not my role to teach people, it's not my role to actually inspire people. If I'm the infinite being, if I'm the infinite one, then who am I actually teaching? Like, there is only me. Like, so, I can make that a story and go, yes, I feel inspired. I feel like I want to speak this and it's going to help other people, but that's like an outcome that you don't actually have a control over. But when your ego attaches to it, you make that the outcome and you make that your focus, and that's where your energy goes. And so for me, this kind of shifted on its head because everything I've been doing is looking at the, everything's been outside of me, like who's the audience, who's the, I want to impact people. And that's actually true. I do feel like that is a calling, like I want to express this stuff that we're talking about now, like this is definitely what I want to be doing. But then it's like, where does the ego take it? And I was just noticing that last night, kind of going, okay, this is where I felt blocked. And so since then, just in the shower this morning, all these ideas are just popping into my head around their branding. So it's just like, okay, that was kind of the block. It's that. It's kind of taking it from a bigger picture, coming down into the point again, like the focused human being. What's my expression that just wants to come through for the sake of coming through? And then I can apply it outwards. And yes, in the story, it's going to look like, okay, it's going to impact people, it's going to help people. But watching that, the ego doesn't take a hold of that as its mission, like if you like, if it's, you know, so that's kind of where I've been sitting at myself. Yeah, I know where you're at.
It's definitely very interesting. For some reason, I heard that many, many years ago, and it really dropped in. So I feel like I've, for the last however many years, 5 or 6 years, actually been running pretty much like that. And it's sort of caused a lot of angst between Jodie and I at times, because she's quite orientated towards people, and I sort of almost say, well, I'm an Aries, so I really don't care about anyone else. It's all about me type thing, you know, like it's sort of been quite interesting. But when I really felt into it, it's like, no, it's not that I don't care about people. It's just that I really got that principle for some reason. And everything I've created since then, like, you know, we created the House Sitting Academy and stuff. And then a lot of people came up against the House Sitting Academy. Oh, you don't need to, people don't need to be qualified to go house sitting. You know, it's not rocket science. Why do they need a course? You're just trying to make money, blah, blah, blah. And I just sat back and I went, you know what? I didn't create it for you. I created it for me. Because in the moment, that felt right for me to actually put that course together. So really, I actually don't care about what you think about it. Yeah. And so coming from that space of actually doing stuff because it's coming through you, like you're saying, in the moment. And we're doing this project because we can't not do this project. It's just, it has to come out of us because that's what's coming through right now. And however people perceive that and take it and what they do with it and whether they get anything out of it or they like us or they don't like us or whatever actually becomes really secondary. And it doesn't actually matter anymore when you're sitting in that space. It's like, I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. And if it reaches, you know, all you can do is distribute it, like we're doing sort of by doing Facebook Lives or however we're getting it out there. And it's sort of like, whoever connects with that is meant to connect with that. That's not our job. It's meant to just be put out into the world, and people will find it when they're meant to find it, and they'll get whatever they're meant to get out of it, and everyone will get something different out of it. Yeah. So that sort of, when you think about it, in marketing, because we've both been, you know, attached to marketing over the last 5 years or something, it's sort of like you couldn't possibly be meeting everybody's needs type thing, because everyone needs something different. Everyone's going to hear a different message anyway. So it's like, why even bother in the first place? You might as well just say what you want to say and, you know, put out the branding you want to put out, and like just do everything for you because that's what feels right for you and feels true for you, and then not worry about it. Like,
this is where that problem comes in. But this is why the ego. This is why it's, you know, the ego is such a big topic. Like, and it's, you know, obviously not doing it just right here now, diving straight into it. But it's just that concept of people kind of, you know, they resonate with that idea. Oh yeah, I can do what I love. But then the ego kind of kicks in. It's like, okay, how am I going to make money from this? That's usually the big thing. How am I going to make this work? You know, how am I? Where's my income going to come from? Those type of questions. That's when it kind of goes off track. So there's nothing wrong with doing what you love, following that. Like, it's all about that. Like, it is truly connecting into that feeling of what am I here to do? What do I feel like I want to express in the world? Whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be a business either. It can be anything. Raising children, painting. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's just doing it for the sake of doing it, not for somebody else. And it's such a big concept to turn on its head, because then you want to judge that and kind of go, well, that means I'm not caring about people. I'm not being empathetic. I'm not being. It's just like, no, it actually doesn't mean that. Like, when it's true for you, it actually isn't the highest good for somebody else anyway. Like, it's just the way it actually works. But it's just kind of that distinction between keeping it actually focused on you, which feels really selfish. And there's lots of stories around that too, which you have to kind of dive into, which we can't do right now. But it's that.
No, but it's almost more caring in some ways, because you're allowing the infinite self to come through, like the true message, and you're not getting involved in it. Yeah, exactly. So that's what it is almost more caring and more loving to people to allow that infinite message to reach them, rather than what you think it's all about.
Channeling that true expression into the world unfiltered. That is actually the goal at the end of the day, for everybody. And there's no such thing as a goal either, but it's kind of like just that expressing what's moving through you unfiltered. That's it. Yeah. Like, we complicate it so much. Yeah. So.
Yeah, unfiltered. I like that. I think that's and the more you become attuned to your intuition and trust it and trust that everyone, and not be attached to everybody and what message they get and what they get out of it and all that sort of stuff, and trying to almost manipulate people to get certain things out of it. It's then it can be whatever it wants to be, sort of thing. Like it's allowing the project or the message to be whatever it wants to be, not what you want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's just a real 360 to what you, 180 degree sort of to what you hear all around you, that's why it feels so hard and sometimes to kind of go against the grain, if you like, because it's kind of not what we're taught. So it's which is interesting in itself. So it's kind of you have to really get to know yourself. That's what it's all about, is really knowing and feeling what that feeling is in your body. What's that energy coming through? What are you here to actually express?
Yeah.
The rest of the story.
A prime example of why these are not scripted. In fact, half the time we don't even know what we're going to talk about until we have a chat just before we go live. What we talk about today, and they'll probably always be like that. We'll do a bit of our backstory, which will be a little bit more structured soon. But then we'll probably just free flow each day, and I think that's a prime example of that. It's like, what do we feel that needs to come through today?
Yeah.
And we'll have a conversation like we always do. We've been having conversations for years. It's like now we're getting to record them, and hopefully somebody else does get to watch them and enjoy them as well. But it's not really the goal.
It's very attached to that. So.
No, it's really just to have a chat. This stuff is really fun to talk about. Very cool. I'm glad you got that epiphany. It's a really important one, I think, and it, like you alluded to in your message, is going to really change sort of the way we present stuff and talk about stuff and what we talk about as well, I feel. In some ways it makes you more willing to just go to places that you may not be willing to go to if your ego's involved, and it's like, oh, I can't really talk about that, or I better not say that line, that might be pushing somebody's buttons type thing. It's like, stop it, I'm just going to say it because that's what's coming out of me right now.
Yes. There's that concept of freedom coming up, actually, which I was actually just talking to a friend about last night, that oftentimes we want freedom, like we crave freedom, but it's usually because we're running away from something that we don't like. And so we think freedom is the opposite of that, but it's not. It's that freedom to be yourself completely as you are. That's what freedom actually is. So it's kind of that's what that feels like too. It's just like, if you don't care about what's outside of you, what's happening, how somebody's going to receive that, you actually just express what's true for you in the moment. That's it. Like, that's all you're here to do.
When you get the real concept of the infinite self, then there is no one outside of you.
It's just you yourself.
I'm sitting here talking to myself right now and having a conversation, and you're doing the same thing. So it's sort of like there is no audience, there's nothing going on outside of us, and that's a big concept we'll dive into as we go along. But that whole law of reflection, I guess, is like whatever you're seeing outside of you actually is just you. That's your own consciousness reflecting back to you. So when you really get that concept and you live by that, then there's just this inherent freedom that comes out, and it's like, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be, oh, should I say this or shouldn't I say that?
It's actually just playing with it all. It's actually becomes like a game. You can play with everything.
And that's where we're headed to with this whole series, is that it is a game. That's all it is. Don't take it seriously, because that's all it is here. It's one big game, and we're having fun with it. So very cool. I love it. Right, that's it for today.
Yep.
We've got to stay juicy so that we tackle things each day. Cool. All right.
Look forward to whatever's going to pop up in the moment tomorrow. So.
Yep. Sure, we'll have something. Cool. All right. Enjoy your day.